So as we were talking about doing this exercise, and I've done this before in a lot of spaces, I don't think we take enough time at the end of that to really consider how much we miss. Yeah? So I'm gonna do another version of that exercise. I want to not miss what is so worthy of appreciation. So I'm just gonna appreciate Connie Jo, who's sitting in the front row for those of you online. I appreciate your tenacity. You have been trying to get here on a Sunday morning for over a month, and here you are. Thank you. I know Kenneth is watching on YouTube. Kenneth, I want to appreciate when you get deep in your passion and discussion, you animate your nose. There's this thing that happens in your face, and your nose is like talking with you, and you only breathe through your nose, and it's like, oh, I know he is meaning this right now. I appreciate that, Kenneth. I know Vanessa is watching on Facebook right now. Vanessa, if you guys don't know Vanessa, she's one of our practitioner students, and she does needlepoint. What's wild to me and what I so deeply appreciate is Vanessa is a mom of kiddos, has chickens that she births and cares for, and she doesn't birth the chickens herself. just to clarify. She's a teacher, she's a wife, she takes care of her land and stewards it, and she does needlepoint. But the coolest needlepoint you've ever seen, like amazing skulls and sirens was the last one I saw. So Vanessa, I appreciate that you are so deeply engaged in your life and you make really cool stuff. This is what happens when we decide to appreciate and to pay attention. So I want to invite you right now to appreciate something about yourself in this moment. And get specific. Appreciation doesn't count when it's general. I just think you're cool. Doesn't count. Something really specific about yourself that you really appreciate. And now I want you to turn to your neighbor, whether you know them or not. At home, I'm hoping you know your neighbor sitting next to you. And tell them what you appreciate about yourself. And if you're watching at home by yourself, put it in the chat if you're feeling brave. Let us know what you appreciate about yourself. And as you're sharing, I want you to notice how it feels to give voice to something awesome about you. Feels good, right? All right, I can hear you guys quieting down a bit. Now, I want you to turn in another direction, not with the same person you just shared with. You're going to share with somebody new, and you're going to appreciate something about them, even if you don't know them. Specific. And if you're on an aisle, cross the aisle. Aisles are really allowed to be crossed. And I know at home, if you're watching by yourself, I want you to appreciate maybe someone that you see on the chat. And as you guys wrap up, I have one more appreciation. As I was watching this incredibly beautiful scene unfolding, and those of you at home, I was wishing, I wish the viewers online could be able to see how beautiful this, appreciations, especially between people who maybe don't know one another. And then I looked to my left, and AV goddess Jordana Thompson is getting it on film. Yes! God is good. See, it's that simple. It's that simple to be filled with gratitude. It is that simple to take a moment and pay attention, because what we know about appreciation is that what we put in our attention with the purpose of appreciating it, not with the purpose of preferring it. Right? Many of us in spiritual teachings and across all faith traditions are taught in our spiritual practices to let go of judgment, right? Like not to judge whether it's crappy, don't judge whether it's great, just let go of the judgment. Just be with what is. Be here now, Ram Dass, right? The power of now, Eckhart Tolle. Present in the moment without judgment. But appreciation is not judgment. Appreciation is being in gratitude with what is. It's not about looking for what you prefer, right? Which you judge good and worthy. It's also not about looking for what you do not prefer and wishing it would go away. It is a way of being present in the moment, being present with the isness, and filling yourself with gratitude for it. And appreciation, the practice of appreciation, means that we begin to look deeply at what is. We take the time to notice the details. We get specific with what is. And the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, which is where the exercise that Clarissa did with us came from, guiding book in this community that helps us stay in agreement with one another. They say appreciation allows us to recognize the unique gifts of both others and ourselves. The unique gifts, right? Because we talked last week about sameness, how often we seek sameness. Oh, that's like me. I resonate with that. But appreciation is about appreciating and paying attention to the unique differences, the unique and amazing ways that God shows up as life itself. Another thing we know about appreciation grows value, right? For those of you in the finance know, there is a appreciating value of some stuff. That's about the depth of my financial knowledge. We could probably bring Cliff, our treasurer, up, and he could even go deeper with you on that. But I think you get it, right? The idea that appreciation means growing value. What we appreciate grows. It doesn't just grow and expand. It increases in value in us. What we attend to grows and expands. It is also, it's sort of like a check and balance, a little accountability partner for us to recognize what it is we are valuing. The things in your thoughts, the things in your life that seem to be very big, that seem to take up a lot of space, are the things you are paying attention to. That is universal law, right? What we pay attention to grows. And so we can look at our lives, we can look at our own minds and be really quite clear about what it is we are paying attention to, what we are focusing on. Because the evidence is right in front of us, all around us, in our minds. The thoughts, right? That roll and roll and roll and roll and roll, that seem like we have no control over, that they are acting on some other authority rather than our own. But when we understand this law of appreciation, when we understand that what we put our attention on, what we focus on, what we give our time to, grows and expands, increases in value, we have now a choice about that. We have a choice about what we choose to appreciate, what we choose to grow. In the 15 Commitments, they go on to say Appreciation supports the expansion of what is most valuable in individuals and collectives. Appreciation, taken consciously into practice, has the potential to grow and expand that which we value. I, some years ago, was really active in a street outreach. And it was with an organization I was participating in called, at the time called, I think it maybe now is called Street Safe. But our intention was we went out into certain neighborhoods where there was a lot of street activity. We partnered with the Department of Health and did needle exchange and harm reduction practices and brought hygiene products. And if we were really lucky, we had some clothing donations that could go out and just really hung out with folks. And, I was out in the sun, baking, making sure people had what they needed. And especially my focus and the other women I worked with, our focus was to work with women who were doing sex work on the streets. And so we needed to make sure they had condoms and hygiene products and whatever they needed. Snacks, summertime for sure. We were giving out, electrolyte water, et cetera. And one of the women, because, I'm out there knowing that I am doing God's work, right? I am serving like a boss out in that sun. And I'm out there being the best human ever. And I'm on the street and this woman comes up to me and we happen to have clothes for folks to take with them that day. And she comes up and she is like beaming light. Light's coming out of her mouth, her eyes, her arms are wide, and she says, "Oh my God, you guys have clothes today. This is the best day ever. Do you know what? I got to sleep in the bed of a truck last night." Grateful as the most grateful I had ever seen in my life. And I'm like, oh, she's here for me. That is some boss appreciation. I got to sleep in the bed of a truck last night. And beaming, giving her light like it was an infinite source. Oh, infinite source. Completely independent of outer circumstance. This is what becomes possible in the practice of appreciation. This is what becomes possible when we consciously choose to pay attention to what we want to grow and expand. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, says, "What we persist in recognizing, we persist in holding in place." What we persist in recognizing, which means what we recognize, what we acknowledge, what we consciously say is so, we hold in place. I was really interested in the word persist. I don't know, something about saying it. Say it with me, persist. It's like serious, right? It's like serious business to persist. So I looked it up. Continue firmly or obstinately in an opinion or a course of action in spite of difficulty, opposition, or failure. And I was like, persisting is serious business. And I love the word obstinate because it's been used about me many times. I believe there's some elementary school report cards. I've always been friends with that word. But now I'm friends with persist. Because I think about that angel on the street with me that day. And that was some persistence. To hold in place joy and delight and gratitude, regardless of difficulty, opposition, or failure, all of which she could have been holding in place in her consciousness. And I was thinking to myself, what if we decided to get obstinate about the good? What if we decided to consciously, actively choose to persist in the good? The secondary definition of persist is continue to exist and be prolonged. And here's what's true about the truth, about the Holy Blessed One. The Holy Blessed One will continue to exist whether we acknowledge it or recognize or not. So this concept of persisting in holding in place what is true, that God is all there is, that the Holy Blessed One is all there is, that Allah is all there is, that Spirit is all there is, that the Absolute is all there is, that the Holy Mother Goddess Divine is all there is. Because that is true, the power, the effort, the labor, it sometimes feels like we need to stay grounded in the truth, is already present in us. It's actually easy to allow the truth to be true. All we have to do is decide to pay attention to what is. Because the isness is. There's nothing we have to do about it. We don't have to make it. We don't have to craft it. We don't have to create the good. It is. So the work of recognizing and holding in place what is there's no work. It's grace. It's as simple as paying attention. But we get into this story. We get into the story about whatever our particular story is. We get into this story that it's hard and that life is suffering. We get into this story that all the circumstances of the world that are really hard to be with at times are the truth, are the whole thing. And if my friend on the street that day could be the very embodiment of joy, the very embodiment of gratitude, in those circumstances, we all are BSing in our suffering. Not a one of us today has to figure out where to sleep tonight. Any of you figuring out where to sleep tonight? How about you online? This is not hard work to pay attention to the good. It's just paying attention and deciding to be good at it. Deciding however many times throughout the day you need to bring it back, reel in the mind, reel in the tapes, reel in the negative self-talk, reel in the stories that do not serve. It's just a decision to recognize the good. And it may be a decision we have to make 4,200 times in a day. But we can. Because God. Because all that good that we can appreciate through our senses, through these incredible gifted senses of aliveness and these incredible bodies of ours, all the ways that we can appreciate. That is right here in us, as us. We don't have to look far. One of my favorite practices during this time of year, once the trees leaf out, is sunset on the treetops. Sunset on the treetops. Anybody else just like glory in that? It is magic. I literally think to myself, especially like AV folks and lighting designers, I think to myself, don't they just wish they could create that? You can't create that. You can't do it. I don't care how good of a lighting tech you are. You can't create that. And last night I was out there and the clouds were doing a thing. And so there was a glow happening in the air. The air itself was lit up and it kept ebbing. And I just, at one point, and I know, I long ago gave up the resistance to being the crazy lady on the street. Because I'm sure they thought, what is she doing now? Because I was just like smiling and looking and wow and oh. And I just couldn't believe it. And then I had this thought, wow, if the air is lit up right now, I must be lit up. I must be lit up too. And it doesn't even matter if nobody can see it. It just is. I didn't have to do anything for it. All I had to do was show up and pay attention. This is what the gifting of aliveness makes possible. And as I walked back into the house, I thought to myself, because I had a rough day. I was all up in my feelings yesterday. Y'all, parenting is no joke. It's no joke. But I walked back in the house and I thought, well, dang. Whatever was happening in my vibrational field all day long has just lifted. My vibration has just increased, expanded, lightened up. Thank you, God. How good it is to just be with it. And if we choose to pay attention regularly and often and long enough, we will be gifted and wowed and awed and inspired and minds blown on a regular basis. And go with me for a minute to this happy place where we are appreciating and gifting ourselves with the isness of the good of the Holy Blessed One. Imagine in your mind what the world looks like when a whole bunch of us dedicate ourselves to that. Just imagine right now what the world looks like when we all commit ourselves to this practice of appreciation. What happens in your body when you see that? Most of you are smiling right now. Yes. Some of you are nodding with your eyes closed, like, yeah, that's some good stuff. This is all that is required. Was this effortful? Shout it, say it, tell me. No. Are you sweating at the brow? All this appreciating? Do you feel more filled up right now? Yes. Do you feel a little spacious? Yes. Do you feel like there's room for more? Yes. Right? Don't you want to busy yourself with that? Me too. So guess what? I have homework. I appreciate, you know what I appreciate the most about Clarissa? And for those of you online, if you could hear the shout, that was Clarissa. Clarissa hangs out in curiosity. Like even when life is kicking her butt, She comes butt kicked with, but what about, and what if, and I don't know, like hangs out in question and curiosity and willingness for the answer to arrive beyond her knowing. I love that about you, man. So, this week, I want you to notice differences in a person, in a human. Animals don't count, plants don't count, lit up trees don't count, no cheating. I want you to genuinely appreciate a difference about them. Genuinely appreciate it. I don't want you going out there looking for what you like in people. You hear the difference? I just want you to notice somebody, just be with their isness, and then notice what appreciation rises. And then I want you to tell them out loud, not in like a letter or an email or a text or a DM. Get in the face of the person and share your appreciation. From our book, 15 Commitments. An increase in value. When something appreciates, it grows in value. Someone who lives this commitment has the intention of having their relations, circumstances, and experiences become more valuable. As you begin this journey of appreciation, it appears to require effort. We all know now that that's not true. But as you develop mastery of this commitment, you will notice the increase in value occurs easily. It is from your intention rather than your activity that the value grows. That's how powerful we are. So anchor this with me as we bring this intention of appreciation into our daily practice for the greater good. Because what I know about the greater good is that good, the good, that holy, blessed good, is ever, ever giving itself to you, to me, to life itself, which makes for the possibility of our ever-expanding good. This infinite flow, this infinite unfolding is always moving for good. There is no other possibility. So as I align myself with that good, all I can do is be expanded and lifted up. All I can do is grow my capacity to notice more good. And because I know that to be the truth, I know that is the truth for every living creature on this planet. And that every time you and I choose the intention of appreciating and growing and expanding the greater good, it does so with ease. Because that is how good God is. It is always good. It is always moving for our expansion and growth, for our experiences and circumstances and relationships to be expressions of greater and greater good. That's what's going on here. I allow myself to just rest and ease and dance in the good. And I invite you to do the same. With deep gratitude for this truth, I let it be. I let it blossom. I let it continue to grow me and grow us in beloved community. Anchor this truth with me in prayer by saying amen, and so it is. So it is.